to ever have enough time to play at all. You know everybody wants to walk in someone else's shoes. Everyone's forgotten who they are. Such a grind.
We are back at the Otter Creek in Rio Grande, and I am putting the finishing touches on the spline. This will be hopefully the last video I ever do with spline, because I think I'm getting ready to get it buttoned up. I've got the grade all the way up. I've got all the risers in, and they're permified. So I'm pretty sure that the next thing I need to do is kind of go back over here and, well, let me show you, because I mentioned some things in the previous video that I want to, kind of clarify, make sure you kind of understand what I'm talking about. So let me move the camera before we get started here. The goal is to get as much of this spline glued in as possible, as far as I can, and still leave Hellgate unconnected, so that I'll end up with 7 pieces of spline somewhere in here that I'll run screws through, so that this particular tenon joint, you can see I'm still loose there, so that the bridge can pull out. And what happens is, you can see I need to add another piece here that butts up against this one. So the piece that comes in here is going to be longer than this piece. So in order to make that a solid glue joint on the other end, you really have to put in another piece on the other side that butts up against this one in the same way that this one butts up against that one. So you're constantly kind of staggering the pieces of spline against each other, and at some point down towards that end, I'll have enough that I can come back in and have my 7 wide right in this area. So that's what I'm gonna do, and get on with it. thought I would take a moment to talk a little bit about spline gluing theory, if there is such a thing. So the first run, you know, where you're gluing your first run together, I generally overlap by about 8 inches, and I glue rough to rough. And I think that creates a nice solid glue joint. And then as you move further out from that center piece of spline, I always make sure that I'm gluing, you know, rough to smooth. And I haven't found any issues with that whatsoever. Once this gets glued, and I use the this Titebond original wood glue is what I use, and it creates a nice solid bond with no issues whatsoever. Now what I've done here is I've left 10 inches of overlap that's going to go off into the bridge area, which will make a little more sense when I go to glue it. But I'm going to drill holes to connect this to the already glued spline so that the bridge can remove. Now, before I do that, I'll point out another, I guess you'd call it tactic in gluing spline. Now, it might be kind of hard to see, but if I remove these 2 clamps from the nails that are on the back side, that relaxes everything, and then this wants to come completely off the riser here. I have removed the nail that's on the back side, and what I've done, let me move the camera a little closer. At some point, you know, when you go to do this, you're going to have to remove the screws that you originally clamped your center spline to. And it'll want to move on you a little bit, and that's okay. But generally, you're going to do that sometime around the 3rd piece of spline, and in some cases, maybe even the 2nd piece. But what I'm going to do here, what I've already done, is I just move the screw. So if this is the next piece that's going to come on, which is the one I'm getting ready to glue, and I want it to be right there, I've just gone in and made another pigeon-toed placement for the nail to kind of hold it in place. And then with this here, it will allow me to remove the nails on the back side that I'm currently using to kind of hold everything in place. But I'm going to do this outside first, then remove the nails on the other side. What I found with the gluing process itself is that there's kind of a magic amount of glue that you want. If you get too much of this stuff, which is how I started out, it'll spill all over the floor, squeeze out, and kind of create way more mess than you need. So you kind of want to get the exact amount of glue that you need from the get-go. And what I found is kind of a continuous stream, three continuous streams. I do one on either side and one in the middle, and then I do a zigzag pattern across that. And for the most part, I found that that's the exact amount of glue that I need. If I have any places that are too thin with the glue, then I come back and add a little more. Like I can see I need a little more down here, but less is more in my opinion. And I kind of let this sit just a little bit too long because I was yapping and thinking about what I was going to yap about. All right, I'm going to add a little more glue in here, and we should be able to move forward. You can see if you had too much glue on here, I'd be dripping it all over everything. Once I get it on there with the bare minimum of clamps that you need, the next thing I do is I just try and make sure everything is as level as I can get it on the top side. You're never going to get it perfect, but you sure want to try. All right, I'm in the process of figuring out what is going to take place with the spline coming in, my adapter plate, and this thing, which is an MTB switch machine. It's a low profile. It's a pretty neat little gadget. It's got a single pole double throw switch in it, and then it's also got input output configurations for LCC or JMRI or whatever else you might be making use of. But it's going to have to sit right here. And I've looked at it, I've thought about it, and I don't think there's any way that I can engineer a method to be able to take this in and out without also removing the adapter plate. If I moved the support system that's right here out far enough that I could get in there with my hand and a screwdriver to do anything, and even remove it from the bottom of the plywood, I don't think any of that's going to work, at least not easily. So I think I'm just going to have to make it to where I've got 2 screws coming in from the top holding on the plate. And if you don't know what I mean by the plate, I'll show video of that probably as I build it. It'll make more sense. But 4 screws holding it on here that can be removed, and then 2 screws coming in from the bottom of the plate up into the spline. I think that's what's going to have to happen. I'm just not sure where in the process of what I'm doing right now I'm going to do it. We'll see. The adapter plate is ready to go, and hopefully the time lapse from the previous segment kind of makes this make a little more sense. So you can see I've got just a little bit of a gap right here. I might need to adjust the risers downstream just a little bit. Really, there's just enough flex in there that I can come from the bottom with my screws once this is 5 wide and screw into the bottom and kind of fix that, and it should work good. And I've got just enough space in here for my MP1 that will rest on the bottom side of the plywood. So let's take a look at the rest of the spline. From here back to the bridge, I'm 5 wide. I'm at least 5 wide. There's some places back there where I'm 6 wide. And then from this piece down to right here, I'm 4 wide. And then I've got a short section where I'm 3 wide. And then you can see right here is where this whole section ends. And the next piece that needs to go on is right here, which will overlap this. And I'm not gonna mess with any of this until Hellgate is completely finished. Just because something might change in there, and I want the ability to change the spline as well, just in case something doesn't go the way I think it's gonna go up there. So that really just leaves me with one more thing to do, so let's take a look at it. I'm gonna add 5 more screws in this area to connect the spline going to Hellgate and the lift out bridge. Now, unfortunately, I can't get to the back side, so I'm gonna have to make sure that I go through enough of this that's gonna hold it in place, which really, once it goes back in after I get the bridge bends where I want them and glue it and kind of finish up the modeled portion of the bridge, and I put this back in, you know, it will never come out again unless someone's tearing down the whole railroad. So I think that's all I got to do. So I'm going to do it. there it is. One more thing crossed off the list of things to do. I ended up with 6 screws, but I think that's going to be just fine the way it is. There's going to be a lot of sanding to do here. Now, some of it, the bulk of it, I'll be able to do on a workbench out in the shop area, but there will definitely be some kind of on this side as well that it's going to be dusty, but sometimes there's just no avoiding that no matter how hard you try. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up for this one. We will see you next time on the Otter Creek and Rio Grande. Thanks for watching, guys.